On the frozen slopes of the Ural Mountains in 1959, 9 young hikers set out on a journey that should have been challenging, but survivable. What awaited them was something else entirely. By the end of their expedition, every single one of them would be dead, their bodies discovered under mysterious, terrifying circumstances. To this day, no one can explain exactly what happened on that mountain. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. It began in late January of 1959. 10 experienced hikers, mostly students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, formed a team led by Igor Dyatlov, a bright and respected young engineering student. Their goal was to ski across the northern Ural Mountains, a route considered extremely difficult, the perfect challenge for their skill level. The team consisted of 9 men and 2 women, but only 9 would reach the final campsite. One member, Ural, had to turn back early due to health issues. His decision saved his life. The remaining 9 pressed on into the snow-covered wilderness, carrying diaries, cameras, and equipment. They documented their journey in writing and photographs, capturing smiles, laughter, and the camaraderie of youth. None of them knew that their final days were being recorded. On February 1st, they pitched their tent high on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, a mountain the indigenous Mansi people called Dead Mountain. Weather was worsening, and visibility dropped. Why Dyatlov chose to camp on the exposed slope rather than in the forest below remains unknown. Some believe it was a navigation error. Others think he wanted to test the team against the harshest conditions. That night, something happened. Weeks later, when search parties finally reached the camp, what they found was disturbing. The tent was still standing, but had been slashed open from the inside. Belongings were left behind, shoes, coats, even food, untouched, as if the hikers fled suddenly. Footprints in the snow, barefoot and wearing only socks, led away from the tent into the darkness. The searchers followed the tracks. At the edge of the forest, beneath a large cedar tree, they discovered the first 2 bodies, Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko. Both were shoeless, wearing only underwear, and their hands were covered in cuts, as if they had climbed desperately into the tree. The branches above were broken. Beneath them, the snow was stained with blood. A small fire had been attempted nearby, but it had not kept them alive. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar tree and the tent. Dyatlov himself, along with Zina Kolmogorova and Rustim Slobodin. Their positions suggested they had tried to crawl back to camp. Like the first 2, they lacked proper clothing. Slobodin's skull was fractured, but investigators said the injury alone wouldn't have killed him. He had simply frozen to death. At this point, 5 bodies had been found, but 4 remained missing. 2 months later, when the snow melted further, the remaining hikers were discovered in a ravine deeper into the forest. Their condition horrified investigators. Lyudmila Dubinina's body was missing her eyes. Her tongue had been torn out. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol had suffered massive skull damage, as if struck by extreme force. Alexander Kolevatov and Semyon Zolotaryev had broken ribs, injuries described as being comparable to a car crash, yet their skin showed no external wounds. The bodies had also tested positive for radiation. No one could explain it. The official Soviet investigation concluded that the hikers died from a compelling natural force. But what did that mean? Theories poured in, each darker than the last. One theory suggests an avalanche forced the group to cut open the tent and flee. But experienced mountaineers point out that no evidence of an avalanche was found, and the slope was too shallow for such a disaster. The tent and belongings remained upright, undisturbed. Another theory points to infrasound, low-frequency vibrations caused by wind interacting with the mountains. Such sounds can cause panic, disorientation, and irrational behavior. Could the hikers have fled in terror from something that wasn't there? Others suspect military involvement. The Ural Mountains were used for secret Soviet weapons testing. Some believe the group stumbled into an experiment, perhaps flares, mines, or chemical weapons that left them injured and disoriented. The radiation found on their clothing fuels this suspicion. There are those who turn to folklore. The indigenous Mansi people considered the mountain cursed. Was it the wrath of spirits, punishing outsiders who dared to trespass, or something even stranger? Something not of this world. Some whisper of UFOs. Eyewitnesses in the region reported strange glowing orbs in the sky during the same period. Could the hikers have encountered something they couldn't understand? Even within the mystery, details remain unsettling. Why did the hikers cut open their tent instead of using the front entrance? Why did they leave without shoes or coats in sub-zero temperatures? Why climb a tree with such desperation? And why did some suffer crushing internal injuries with no external wounds? The tongue of Lyudmila Dubinina remains one of the most haunting details. Was it taken by animals after death, or something more sinister? The case was closed quietly by Soviet authorities, classified and buried in secrecy. Families of the victims received vague answers. And for decades, the Dyatlov Pass Incident became a whispered legend. Today, researchers continue to debate the truth. In 2019, Russia reopened the investigation, only to reaffirm a natural explanation, a small avalanche. Yet this answer has satisfied almost no one. Too many questions remain. Too many pieces don't fit. On that mountain slope, under the howling winds and endless snow, 9 young lives ended in a way no one can fully explain. Their final hours remain trapped in mystery, frozen in time, like the mountain itself. And perhaps that is what makes the Dyatlov Pass incident so terrifying. Not that it happened, but that after more than 60 years, we still don't know why.